Listen, so before we get into some serious stuff, right?
Yes.
I just wanted to mention that I just wanted to put my prediction out there.
Mm-hmm.
By the end of The Weeknd's career, he's going to be the best artist of all time. I just felt like I needed to say that.
He's definitely going to be up there. And from my perspective, I want to take all credit for that prediction because I've been saying this. Joe's a recently Weeknd. He's a recent fan. He's in the he just entered the Weeknd fan club.
Yeah.
But I like it a lot. It makes me happy. We can bang to some R&B.
It's not even
music.
like, see, that's the thing. Like, I don't even know what to classify his music as.
Yeah, no, it's all over the board. It's called beautiful.
I think I think he literally will just be, like, if he doesn't surpass a couple people, you know, he's going to be top 3 greatest artists of all time.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Like, a bad Weeknd song is better than everyone else's good songs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he doesn't really have much bad songs.
Yeah.
It's more just, like, not as good as his best songs. That's, like, what his bad song is.
Yeah.
It's just not as good, but it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just got to put that prediction
Well,
out
music
there.
thing, you know what I'm saying? We might talk about music here and there for sure. That might be a topic. I mean,
Yeah.
we're always listening to it.
Well, I mean, since we're just talking about music right now, let me throw 3 albums out there, and I want to hear you rank them.
All right. Bet.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Beauty Behind the Madness, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Weeknd joint.
Mm-hmm.
Good Kid, Mad City, and Take Care.
I think I already did this. I'm pretty sure I already did this. I don't know, man.
This took me a long time to do. Because first of all, right, let's start out by saying, like, a lot of people don't think that's The Weeknd's best album.
A lot of people.
like,
It's like
okay,
number
so
3 on most of people's lists.
Number 3.
I have it as either number 1 or number 2. Straight.
What do you have? What's the other one that you compare?
I mean, the only ones that I can consider it like in that level is the After Hours and then the trilogy, just because that's kind of what began.
After Hours.
That's kind of what skyrocketed the entire thing. But also, I'm a huge fan of Starboy as well. Like, it's just really hard for me to be able to list his albums.
So all right, so let me list you. Okay, so Beauty Behind the Madness, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got Real Life. Started off with fire.
Mm-hmm.
Losers, Tell Your Friends. Now, all right, here's like, so all his albums have hits, right?
Yes.
But these kind of hits is where it starts making me think, like, is this his best album? You have Often, The Hills,
Yeah.
Acquainted, Can't Feel My Face, Earned It.
So we got the
In the
cultural
Night,
impact.
As You Are.
Then you got the
Angel.
little Slept On.
Yeah, like, I mean.
Yeah, no, I think that is by far, if you really break down the discography, that is his best overall album from a cultural impact perspective, and then from just an overall sonic perspective and just music at scale, it is high quality music.
Is it a perfect album? Like, is there any misses on that album?
I don't think there is.
No misses.
I don't think there is.
All right, so now you go to Take Care, right?
And just to be frank, Take Care, legendary project, probably top 10 of our generation, but it's not my number 1 Drake album. It's my number 2 Drake album.
Well,
That's
and
what I
The
think.
Weeknd wrote 90% of
And
Take Care.
Drake did publicly say in his last interview that nothing was the same as his favorite. Take Care is his second favorite. So for all the people back in high school that used to go to war with me about this, it came out of Drake's mouth. So that's just all I'm about to say about that.
But we cannot forget the fact that he may just be saying that because The Weeknd, it is known that The Weeknd wrote a lot of Take Care.
It might be a slight ego thing. I don't know. I can't say that. A lot of albums that a lot of people create aren't fully written by them, so I can't really use that as a giant negative.
But if we're comparing the 2 albums, Take Care and Beauty Behind the Madness,
The Weeknd wrote the one, and The Weeknd wrote the other one too. So yeah, I mean, from a cultural impact perspective, the Beauty Behind the Madness is a slept-on project and is not appreciated enough. And Take Care is I'm not going to call it an overappreciated album because it's an incredible project. So it deserves its fruit.
And then Good Kid, Mad City.
And then Good Kid, Mad City is the best hip-hop album of our lifetime, like that we lived.
Yeah.
Other than, I mean, I guess we were babies when Eminem was dropping some of his, and Get Rich Die Trying. Like,
there's
was that 50's project?
Yeah.
The classic project, is it Get Rich Die Trying?
Yeah, Get Rich or Die Trying.
Or Die Trying,
classic.
Yeah.
but then you have, like I think people forget that Nas still makes music.
And that Nas still has made classic albums in our lifetime.
Yeah.
A lot of his projects.
Same with Jay-Z.
Yeah, that's why I don't want to say our lifetime. I mean the part of our lifetime where we were starting to pay attention to projects, overall, and started to pay attention to the industry and to music.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there is, I would say once we turned like 14, maybe 13 for you, you were a young music head. But I'd say once we hit 14, 15, so that's in what, 2014, 2013, everything beyond would be considered our generation from how I look at it.
Born Sinner or...
Yeah, Born Sinner or what is it called? Wow. I'm sorry, J. Cole fans. I'm a J. Cole fan, but not like a huge J. Cole fan. What is it?
No, I was going to say...
What's the one? What's his second best project? Or
his Forest Hill Drive?
Forest Hill Drive.
Oh,
it just slipped my mind. But yeah, Born Sinner, Forest Hill Drive. Those are two other classic albums of our generation.
What do you think is better out of those two?
We've already talked about this. It's the same thing as Drake. I feel like Born Sinner is a less appreciated but better album.
Yeah. Okay, now, all right, so back to the original statement, because we'll go too deep. Because, first of all, Nas is the best hip-hop artist of all time. Still is, always will be.
Number one. All day.
Fuck anyone who thinks
Did he get nominated for his last
I don't
album?
even pay attention to that shit.
I don't either, because, for one, The Weeknd, we talked about that in, like, one of our beginning, like, practice podcasts, but how disgusting it was that the Grammys took away The Weeknd's opportunity to be nominated for 5 to 6, let alone none. He got 0.
They just want to push a certain cultural. They have to set things up in a very strategic manner to profit the most. So, like when you look into how those. I don't want to say organizations, institutions, how those institutions work. There is a motive behind every little action you could think of. Yeah. First of all, you don't know what partnerships people have. You don't know who's working together. You don't know who's working against each other. Mm-hmm. And if you think that that's just some false narrative out of a movie, it's not. These institutions deal with billions of dollars and assets that have influence on how industries move. And like, let's just say, for example, one of them has a big stake or a large interest in someone like Lil Baby, right? You're going to want Lil Baby to win those things, so you do some favors for each other, and
of course,
things are set up a certain way. Now, I'm not saying I know exactly what it is that happens.
Yeah, but they want to write the narrative for the artists that they control, and if they have leverage on you, they're going to want to write your narrative. So when you go off that narrative and you want to create your own, things happen like what The Weeknd just had to deal with. He's trying to take control of his career. The Grammys don't give him any nominations for probably the best album of any genre this year. After Hours was incredible, and it deserved at least 3 wins at the Grammys. It didn't get 1 nomination. So
it's bad. It's bad.
F.
I think that's why
I'm not gonna answer your question about the albums. That's why I'm completely changing the subject.
That leads me to like legitimate thought. Kanye West right now, what he's trying to do. Yeah. People look at him like he's a nutcase, and it really does suck that that's the case. And it's almost like, you can't be mad because some people do bring it upon themselves. But when you look deeper, like what the guy's really trying to do and what he has done, the products that he has brought into the world and the care he's put into them, what he's trying to do right now with the architectural design in his 12,000 acres of design school, creating those spaces for creative people to come and not be manipulated and not be kind of boxed in by reality and societal norms. It's great.
Literally and spiritual. Or
physically and spiritually. Yeah, and that is part of the reason why he walks around and says these crazy things like, I am the next Michelangelo, I am the next Steve Jobs, I am the next Walt Disney.
Crazy.
Crazy. Yeah, he's crazy for saying that, but it is that got him to where he's at through his whole life. He's always said radical things, and it's not about ego. It's not about putting it out there and being cocky. He's always said this, and I think this is very important for everyone watching this. Do this yourself. You don't have to be an egotistical asshole. You don't have to be a narcissist, but when you say those things about yourself to yourself, you're cultivating a self-perception. Like the way that you perceive yourself controls your actions and the way that you go in life.
100%.
You know what I mean? And that's why he does that. When you compare yourself to Michelangelo and Steve Jobs, you know, you start having a different respect for yourself. You start carrying yourself a certain way. You start acting different. You know what I mean? And
whether you think you are or whether you think you aren't, either way, you're right.
Yeah.
These are all things
Say that again.
we view.
Say that again.
Whether you think you are or whether you think you're not.
Either
way, you're right.
Either way, you're right.
And that's a paraphrase of Henry Ford's quote. It's been written many different ways. I don't think we know exactly how it was written.
Yeah.
But essentially that's
all that matters is the philosophy.
100%. And that's life.
But I'm not letting you get away. So
well, one thing that I was going to say about Kanye. Wait, listen. One thing I was going to say about Kanye and the way that society wants to just label him as crazy. The reason why we label him as crazy is because it's much easier to label an individual as crazy when they're discussing a reality in a world that's different than what we're being told that it is.
Yeah.
The structures and the setup and everything, you know, far and in between. He talks about a version of that world that's shifted and flipped on its head. Yeah. And it's much easier for the everyday person to just label him as someone who's saying crazy, radical things for his own monetary gain than to actually open their minds and think about a world that might be different than it seems.
I think the point you brought up is a brilliant segue into the actual topic that we were going to get into.
Yeah, and thank God, because I wasn't going to answer your question about the music.
No,
I don't want to do that because
I'm coming back to that
because people are going to hold me to it. This podcast is going to live in the ether somewhere. Yeah. And I'm gonna be homies with one of these people, and I'm gonna put their album as third, and they're gonna put it back on me. You know what I mean? And I'm just not getting stuck on it.
Well, we're coming back to it at the end. Yeah. But this is a perfect segue. So when people don't understand something, or when they're not educated on it, or when it's too far out of their reality that they've cultivated through their experiences of life, they label it as crazy. Yeah. And the reason that this is a perfect segue is because what we need to be talking about today, the message that we're pushing out there today is a conversation about understanding. And when I say understanding, I mean from a macro perspective, all the way from us as a human civilization, all the way down to an individual perspective. Understanding is probably one universal tool that controls the way that we interact with each other. And we don't realize its power. We don't understand its power. Like, people hear the word empathy, and, you know, it's almost like, what is that really? We all go through life from the beginning of the time where we could observe what's going on around us to the time to the age where we could start making our own conscious decisions. Our experiences and our environment that shaped our pattern of behavior is what cultivates our reality. Yes. The way that we see life.
Of course.
And we need to be taught how to, not only taught, but we need to be aware that that is only one very surface level way of thinking about the world. We need to be able to step outside of our own perspective and say, hey, Jaden's experience of life is totally different than mine. Yeah. So if me and Jaden are engaging in conversation and we have a disagreement, how about, instead of labeling that as an argument or a debate or a disagreement, we label it as figuring out the realities that we both see the world from and figure out where we're different at.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. How could you then be mad at an individual for seeing the world in a different light and also having radically different belief systems if you can now know that everything that they believe in has a purpose in their experience.
In their experience.
When you understand that, then it's much, much easier to have empathy, and you don't label an individual that looks opposite as you do as wrong or as evil or as the villain. We were having a conversation a few hours ago with our friend Mike about this concept and how this toxic tribalism is created in our country.
Yeah.
And I don't want to dive too much into politics right now, but it's seen very much in politics, in the left and the right, and these radical systems that are starting to cultivate in our society, and how an individual on one side or the other can view the opposite as a complete wrong individual and can label their ideologies as completely wrong and twisted, and can look at them as a negative person without even understanding or asking or being open to the possibility that they have reasons in their experience that makes them want to believe, or makes them at least align with some of the beliefs of a certain party. But we don't even do that at all. We just immediately hear someone telling us that they disagree with us, and these radical emotions, this defense mechanism starts to occur where we feel personally attacked, and we feel that our world is being personally attacked because someone doesn't view the world in the same way as us.
In the same way, like, and it really, if you think about it, see, the crazy thing is, we only think problems are little because we only think about ourselves. Take that same problem that you're thinking about with yourself and scale it out to a whole society.
Yeah, this is a good point.
Then you're getting into macro problems that literally guide our world in dangerous ways. You know what I mean? Like, when you think about a war, and now I'm not talking about any specific scenario here or anything that actually happened, but think about when wars start. It literally is something so simple. Something so simple as misunderstandings and miscommunication. But where's it at?
By small amounts of people, too.
But where at? At the top.
At the top, exactly.
At the top. And then when you're making decisions at the top, they trickle down. And that's why you have to be careful. That's why these little things are the hidden details. The devil is in the detail. The devil lives in the detail where no one wants to look. And it's what we do with one another. It's what we do with ourselves. That's why the first place of understanding starts, like you were saying earlier, with yourself. If you can't go a few layers deeper in your own mind and your own self, you will never be able to harness the power of the education of this concept of understanding
to be open-minded,
what this means to do. You know what I mean? Like, I could say, so I'll use the example of a family member. Like, I know one problem that a lot of people tell me is, like, man, I want to chase my dream and I want to do what I want to do, but my parents, they just can't understand it. So let's really break this down. This is where empathy comes in. Do you really expect your parents to understand what you're trying to do? First of all, you're from two totally different generations. They've built their experience of life over time, not in your reality, in their reality. Now we could get into the part where parents should not be pushing their reality onto children, but a lot of people don't know what's being talked about right now, so they go through their whole lives not understanding this concept, and that's what leads to raising kids in that manner. So not only is this important for yourself, but things like this that we're talking about today, they're also important for the way that you raise your kids. Because if you understand this concept,
it's cyclical, and this is a cyclical process. You know, the same way that you talked about the parents are treating the kids, they were treated the same way when they were kids.
Exactly.
So it is a cycle, and it must be broken, and it starts within. And it really does, and I love that we're going in that direction.
It starts with enlightenment.
Yes.
Like what me and you are doing right now.
Yes.
You keep
it is enlightenment, and jeez, I always hit that mic, man. Jeez. It does start, in order to have empathy, in order to have this open mind, to be able to see someone else's life and be able to be open-minded enough to want to understand another person, to be able to fully understand them. It does start within, and it does start with that personal look in that personal layer, digging deeper and deeper and deeper into what made you who you are, so that you can do the same when you're having discussions with other people.
It's almost like I read that, I don't even know if this is a quote or not. I think someone might have just said it, and it's really funny. It says, that you understand too much psychology when you can't be mad at anyone for doing anything. You know what I mean? Like when you have that knowledge, and someone does something to you, you're like, okay, well, this is why they did this. This led up to this. They were thinking like this. They were conditioned in this fashion in life to think this way. So it led to this action by them on me. You know, like,
and
then
can't
how could you be mad?
You can't be upset with them about that.
You know what I mean?
Yes, that's the end goal in regards to the topic that we're talking about right now. Yeah. And I like that you wanted me to further explain the individual sector of that, because it does start with your ability to do that to yourself. This is where forgiveness comes from. This is where perspective comes from. It's not taking away blame from our faults or looking at ourselves and saying that we're perfect and all the things that we did wrong were on other people and they were other people's fault. It's quite the opposite. It's taking responsibility for our previous actions. It's taking responsibility for our negative flaws and the things that we look at that might be twisted, a perspective that's wrong and not, not to the times, because we're all evolving really fast as human beings. We have to evolve with the times, and we're starting to understand that some of the things that we believed in the past might not be true. Yeah. So you first have to look at yourself and have forgiveness because of the fact that we're programmed to be the individuals that we are today. Yeah. So once you understand that you're not a slave to your previous perspectives and your previous belief systems, and that you can restart and you can become a new person. You break it down all the way to your core, to your habitual state. We've talked about that before in the past, how, starting at like 4 or 5, when our memory first becomes, very active, we're programmed to be this certain person, this certain version of what our parents raised.
The Indians used to say, show me the way a kid was raised from 1 to 8, and I will show you the man that he ends up being.
Exactly.
Because there's a scientist that talks, I think he's a neuropsychologist that talks about this. From 0 to 7, you are in this state of being called theta, I think it is. And what that means is you're below consciousness. You're below being able to make your own decisions. So what you're doing, you're in this observational kind of stage of life. All you're doing is looking around your environment. My mom and my dad, or whoever is in my life, my brother, these people that I see are interacting with each other like this. That is all that I could do, is copy and mimic. Yes. And I think I want to explain kind of the scientific underpinnings of when people talk about conditioning or programming, because a lot of people hear that and it's almost like the self-help gurus, they hear it from them and then they automatically put it in their mind like, oh, this is complete bullshit. The scientific underpinnings, when people say programming or conditioning, it's very simple. All that it means is over and over and over again in your life, you were guided to act a certain way and look at life through a certain lens and do things in a certain manner. Yes. And when you do that over and over and over again, you are creating your own reality like we're talking about, and there's no other way of life. Yeah. You are not taught to see outside of that. That is those walls and those boxes and those limits that are drew all around you from the time that you are raised in this world. Yes. And a lot of people go through life never understanding that you could break out of that, that you could think your own way.
And also not understanding that there's another world outside of your own little tiny world, and that's where it kind of goes into. You first have to break free from the parameters and the chains that were put on you in order to understand that there's more, and also to understand that if you were programmed like that, mostly every single other person that you come across at some point in their life was involved in that same type of conditioning. Every single human being that walks.
Even if it wasn't the same kind of conditioning, you should make it one of your tasks in life to figure out how that person, this is empathy right here. This is the definition of empathy, of figuring out what that person's conditioning is. Exactly. Because that is what will allow you for a better relationship. It doesn't matter if it's your parents. It doesn't matter if it's family. It doesn't matter if it's your significant other. It doesn't matter if it's business partners. When you communicate in a way where you are listening to understand, like right now, this conversation me and you are having, I could be just waiting for you to get done so I could say my piece.
Tell your story.
And then you could wait for me to be done so you could say your piece. Now, that would lead to a bad conversation because there's no flow. When we're actually listening to one another, I'm listening to understand, what are you saying to me? I'm not thinking about what I'm going to say next.
Yes.
It just comes naturally.
Yes.
And if we do that in all of our relationships, like say you and your significant other and you guys are arguing about something, you could classify it as an argument, or you could say we're having a discussion to learn each other better, because that's all problems really are.
Yeah.
You're two different people who view this one issue at hand in two different ways, and instead of classifying the whole scenario as you two together versus the problem, it's both of you versus each other, and that's not how you should view things.
Yeah.
You should view things as, why do you think this way?
Yeah.
What's making you look at it in this way? Well, and you're allowed to have disagreements. That's the important part.
Yes.
You're supposed to negotiate. You're supposed to come up with solutions together. But if we did that in every area of life, it would be a much better world. And that's from an individual standpoint, like me versus one other person, or that's a societal level. We all think like this together. You know what I mean?
Is the goal to be right in a conversation, or is the daily goal what you wake up every single day with on your mind, to grow as a human being and to grow with the group or the society that surrounds you? And that's where you really start to understand that some people's initiative to have conversations are not to grow in that conversation. It's to be right at all times. It's to be combative. It's not to want to grow and be that student. We always talk about being a student of life. If you can program yourself to want to be constantly growing and being the student, even if you're talking to someone that society claims isn't as high level as you, they don't make as much money as you do, you constantly can be a student of life. And you actually talked to me about this specifically with an individual that we know that's super successful in his field and has made a ton of money and has a ton of respect. And you caught these habits when you talk to him. We're young and up and coming, but every single thing that you say, he's very much listening to you and learning from you at all times. And he's not even just doing that, he's telling you while he's doing it. That's a huge thing for people to understand as they go on through life, that a lot of times these huge radical arguments and these back and forth brawls verbally that occur is because we're not actually trying to understand the person across from us. We're not actually trying to learn their perspective or understand their perspective. We just want to be right. We don't even understand what right is because we haven't yet understood how we got to have these opinions, and that's where it trickles down all the way to the beginning. But we just want to protect our belief system because we don't understand that there's more out there.
We're attached to them.
Yes.
We're attached to our belief system.
100%. And I think that's a good transition that we just made right there from first reverse engineering our upbringing, understanding why we believe in these things, understand who taught us them, and then starting to make our own belief system based upon research and based upon our own education, our own soul searching, and then doing the same when we talk to others.
Yeah, you made a point that kind of sparked a thought when you were talking about the person who learns from everyone. So what that leads me to think is, it's not actually about like that the person who is learning from everyone. It's not so much about that they're actually learning from everyone. Yeah. It's actually the where the importance lies in that is the character of the person who is doing that. And I mean, honestly, one of the biggest things that I've realized this far in my life in regards to what we're talking about right now is that if other people not believing in you is affecting you, it's most likely because you don't yet believe in yourself. Yes. And I think it's important to be aware of that, because that's what you need to know to take the necessary steps to start fixing the fact that you don't actually believe in yourself, and you're projecting that onto everyone else who doubts you as well. Yeah. And I think how you do go about fixing that, I would probably say that out of my own experience, I'm speaking, when your words and your actions are misaligned, your subconscious mind is always going to tell you that you don't believe in
yourself. You're going to have this consistent lack of confidence and insecurity, and you don't even know why. This is one of the biggest things that you've really put into my mind, this exact concept. We've talked about this multiple times. And when you kind of gave me that analogy, it's not even an analogy, it's more of a proven theory. You know what I'm saying? But when you gave me that perspective, I really started to replay the last year or 2 years of my life at that point, and started realizing when I was at my most insecure state and when I was at my most confident state. It's when my actions and my words, or what is it, your actions?
Words or beliefs.
Words or beliefs.
Words or beliefs.
So when my actions started to align with my beliefs or my words, what I was saying I was going to be, when I started saying what I was going to be and I started doing what it took to be that person, everything in the world started to make sense. But when I was in my life saying that I was going to be a successful entrepreneur, saying I was going to leave college and do this and do that and do this, but I was acting the exact same way that I was acting when I was a high schooler. When I was Jaden who played sports, Jaden who went to parties. When I was being that person, I was not a successful entrepreneur. I was not doing what it took on a day-to-day basis to be great. I was just saying a bunch of things to be able to protect my insecurity inside that I didn't know what I was going to be, or I didn't know how successful I was capable of being.
Yeah, man. I think that's big. I think that's big because, you know, when we talk about words or beliefs, like you're saying, it's almost like you can't know your beliefs until your actions prove them. You know what I mean? So we like to say that we have beliefs. We like to say that we're loyal people. We like to say that we want to be this businessman, or we want to say that, you know, we are the most trustworthy person that you'll ever find, or we treat everyone with respect. You know, we will do what it takes. All of those things, they sound beautiful.
They sound awesome.
They sound beautiful.
Elon Musk said it on that interview, right?
Yeah, right?
That's where it comes from. It comes from great people saying things, and then us thinking that just because we say what other great people say, that somehow is going to manifest in us becoming that person.
It's literally like, it's you could out of all these quotes that you hear, if you just took one of them and tried to live it out for your whole life, you may actually change your life. One quote. Think about that. So the power doesn't lie in the word, but words are important because they can weaponize.
They spark action. They spark action.
But where does the importance lie? And that's the importance of what I'm saying right now. It's the scientific and the psychological underpinning foundation of that surface level kind of talk that you hear. The point is, if your actions and your words or beliefs are not aligned, that little devil inside of you, that little voice, your subconscious mind, it is always watching you. It is always watching you, and it will always be there to tell you in devilish ways. It won't tell you like, hey, this is why things aren't working out. It'll just simply say, you don't believe in yourself. I'm not going to tell you why. I'm not going to tell you why you don't believe in yourself. But if you don't figure it out, liar, exactly.
Yeah, little ass bitch. I know you ain't doing what you said you do. I know you're just posting that picture on Instagram to make people think you are someone, and it's constantly eating you up. And it is like this little devil. You know, it very much is this little demon that's inside of you that can honestly be viewed as a positive when you realize what it's there for. It's there to remind you of the truth at all times. Even if you want to run away from it, you can't run away from the voice in your head that is constantly reminding you of who you are at that moment.
See, like if you're
it's
running
kind
away,
of a beautiful thing.
If you're running away from that shit, like if you really think about it, you're actually running away from your life. I don't know how else to put that. I don't know how else to think about it. If you're running away, if you're pushing things under the rug, if you're hiding, you're running away from your life. You are like, what I always told myself is fear leads you to the exact place that you were avoiding in the first place.
Yeah.
Let me repeat that again. Fear leads you to the exact place you were attempting to avoid in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Like, think about that.
Mm-hmm.
We are the ones who bring devastation upon ourselves.
Yes.
Through not understanding how our mind controls our life.
Mm-hmm.
We harness all the power.
Yes.
All the power. And it may not be, this goes into the belief thing. Like, it's consistency. It is slow compounding.
Mm-hmm.
A slow compound of building up your life, building up your mindset, building up your virtues, building up the skill sets that you have in your weaponry.
Mm-hmm.
It is slowly accumulating the positive things in your life over time.
Yes.
Consistency and persistency and longevity.
Yes.
I literally remember spending probably a year of my life thinking about whether I wanted to start diving into what made me who I am, why I am this way, what is my trauma, because you don't know what's on the other side. It's so simple to hear and to say it, but to explain what you go through during that process of facing the truths that you spend your whole life blocking out and hiding through all of these false narratives. You know what I mean? Just take the step. Take the step, because on the other end of it is a world full of being able to have empathy and understand one another and understand that we'll never understand someone else's pain, unless we analyze our own pain. You know what I mean? When me and you have both analyzed our own
history,
pain points and history,
pain,
we're able to better understand what it's like and what someone else's history and pain might be.
Yes.
So, this world from the globe itself, from countries working together, working against each other, from societies, from friend groups at school, you know what I mean? From marriages, family members, work, this is the universal cheat code to have fulfilled relationships and a better life, I feel like,
Yes. Absolutely.
Yep.
Good way to end.
All right, cool. Well, top 3 albums, what are they? Just right now, give me the list. Take Care, Good Kid, Mad City, Beauty Behind the Madness. Just shoot them out.
Take Care at 3. Beauty Behind the Madness 2. Good Kid, Mad City number 1. Bitch.